Now that we've seen some of the basics with respect to accessing background data and reporting for assets, let's go ahead and take a look at the onboarding process. So we can start over here on the Add New Equipment. You'll see that that will take us to a big form that has a variety of sections and fields that we can fill out during this onboarding process. So the very first step would be to put a barcode on whatever piece of equipment you're trying to onboard or whatever asset you're trying to onboard. And you can then scan that barcode, and the form should fill that in with both the equipment code and the barcode. Now, one of the little notes you'll see here is that this can be set separately if it is different from the equipment code. So if the equipment code has already been established, for example, and does not match the barcode, then these two items may be different, but in many cases these may just be the same. So next up, you'll see that we have a PO number, and so we can basically copy and paste this in from another source, or we can just type it in directly, etc. Next, let's set a category. So we can tap anywhere on that box, and that will present us with a big list of categories. Now, if for whatever reason we find that the category we want is not available, so for example, say we want to bring in a category for computers, and we find that that isn't available, we can always just go ahead and tap the Add New and enter that information here. So on this add form, you'll see that we have both the category itself as well as sort of the friendly name. In some cases, these may differ, but sort of similar to what we saw with the barcode, often these things will be essentially the same. Down at the bottom, these are optional. However, you may want to select an icon and a color here just to make it easier to differentiate equipment assigned to these categories. So for example, we can select the desktop icon here to indicate that it's a computer. We'll go ahead and just specify essentially any color we want here. We'll just grab a green color there. So when we save that, it'll tell us that it has been saved, and when we return to the main form, you'll see that that value has been filled in. Continuing on down here to ownership, here is where we can specify the custodian. You'll note that there's also an alternate for that as well. And next up, we can come into the division and department, so we can set those two values here. We also have the option of entering a cost center code here. And down below, you'll see that we have location. So there are two types of locations that could be specified, either a building, which I think is going to be the majority of the assets that are being tracked, but there's also the option to select a lat long. So if something is outside, then you can use the lat long instead. Now for specifying lat long, you'll see that there is a read location button, and so that will basically ask the current browser, whether it be a mobile device or a desktop, it'll ask the current browser where it is located. So the first time you do this, it may pop up a little box asking you to okay that. So, is this application allowed to record the current position? Now again, for the most part, we're expecting this to be a building. So let's just go ahead and we can tap on the building code. Next, we can use our search box here, or we can just kind of scroll down and look through the list. I will type in a few letters, and we can say that this is on the second floor of the Olin Engineering Complex, and we can just select a space to place that in. Additionally, we have the location box, so this is just kind of a free form if we need more information than just the building floor and the space. Next, you'll see that we do have some comments here, and so these are just basically free form, so anything that isn't represented here on the form can be entered just as comments. Next, we're going to leave the status and condition in place, but obviously those values can be changed during this onboarding process as well. Next up, we have manufacturer. So of course, this functions like a lot of the other lists. So we can dive in here, and once again, if we type in some value and find that it isn't there, we can always come to add new. So with our manufacturer set, we now need to enter a model number and a serial number, or at least I think we would be expected to enter that. So again, you can either type that in or you can copy it from another location. So there are a couple of other fields we may want to fill in here, the cost purchase as well as the date manufacture. You'll note that the date acquired is just defaulting to the current date. So finally, we do have attachments here. So if we would like to add a picture or something like that, and in this case, I marked this as a Dell computer, but we'll just go ahead and upload a random photo here. Okay, so with all of that information filled in, we're ready to save. So let's go ahead and push the save button. You'll note that we get a record saved message, but directly after that, we have the option of printing a label. So by clicking yes on that, you'll see that it'll just bring up the print preview. And this is probably not what the final look of these labels will be. However, this is a good representation of what we might do here. Now, if it is going to be a full sheet of paper, either the label can actually expand and take up the full sheet, or what we can do is there is an option to basically just record all of the items that we're adding, and later on we could say print all of the tags at once. So if we are barcoding and onboarding a bunch of stuff all at once and we want to wait, we can split this up into smaller bits of paper so we're not printing, full sheets of paper for individual labels. Now, whether you print this or cancel it, when you return back to the form, you'll see that it is providing an option to basically copy all of the details that we entered in order to make it easier to onboard a number of things that are very similar. Now, these are all little checkboxes, so if you don't want to copy over ownership or something like that, you can uncheck that, and that will not copy the values from the previous record. In our case, let's just leave these all checked, and we can hit OK. And so what you'll see is that basically everything has been filled in, with the exception of the equipment code and the barcode. Obviously, we're expecting those things to be different for each record. So once you get back to this form, you may want to go ahead and scan the next barcode, etc. The only other field that didn't get copied is the serial number here. Again, those things we are basically expecting to be unique, and so that information was not copied. So if we wanted to, we are now ready to go ahead and we can save this with our new equipment code. And so this would obviously be a second copy of basically the same thing. So once we're done onboarding anything we want, as per usual, we can return to our dashboard with our home button at the top left.